welcome to Blossom Sandwich Sews. My name is Yvette and welcome to my channel if this is your first video, and welcome back if you've seen some already. And don't forget to subscribe if you are enjoying my channel. I'm so grateful to everyone who has subscribed already. It's so exciting that you're following along with the videos I'm making. So my video today, I'm going to just chat about taking photos of your makes, kind of with a view to just chatting about posting them on Instagram, because in my previous video, a couple of videos ago, I did a whole video about sewing challenges on Instagram. So I thought this could tie in quite nicely with that if you're like interested in getting involved in sewing challenges in the Instagram community, but then you're feeling a bit stuck with how to take photos of the things that you've sewn and made. This video was kind of inspired by Corinne from Sewing for Self-Care, because we were chatting on Instagram about taking photos of our makes. And also recently, a couple of months ago, there was a challenge by Like So Amazing, the fabric shop, that was called Sew Snap, Snip Sew Snap, something like that. Snip Sew Snap, I think it was. So that's a bit of a tongue twister. And that was a challenge about taking photos of your makes and just trying out new things with the photography. So I thought I would just chat to you, not really like a tutorial or anything, just chatting about how I take my photos, because I thought that might be interesting to some of you, especially if you follow me on Instagram and you wanted a bit more behind the scenes details of my photos. So I tend to take most of my photos outside, and I get my husband to take the photos, but it's just a case of finding what works for you, because I know some people have different levels of confidence behind the camera, and I've heard some people say they much prefer to take photos by themselves with using a tripod and a timer and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to chat about different ways to take photos basically, and things to bear in mind to get the most out of the photos of your makes. So I'm going to start off by chatting about taking photos outdoors, because that's what I prefer to do. I think they just come out a lot better in my experience. I live in quite a small flat, so I don't really have like a nice space indoors where I can take nice photos with good lighting. And I think lighting is one of the most important parts of getting a good photo. So when you're outside, you kind of have to consider the backdrop. So it can be quite fun to go on like a little walk around your neighborhood, and you kind of see it in a different way when you're looking around thinking, oh, would this make a nice backdrop for a photo? So you can take photos, in front of a wall, or if there's like a nice local mural, or even just like in front of a plain garage door or anything. It's just nice to be on the lookout for something a bit different if you want to keep the photos varied on your grid. So I'm quite lucky in that I live near a nice walk along a canal and near a little area of forest as well, which work really nicely for photos. And the area is also quite quiet as well. So that's something that you want to consider when you're taking photos outdoors is, will there be a lot of people around? And would that, if that might make you feel self-conscious while taking the photos, then maybe that's not the ideal place to take it if you want to, really get into it. Another thing to consider is like the actual taking of the photos. Are you going to like ask someone to take the photos for you? So that's what I do. I get my husband to take the photos, and that's quite fun to do together. I think he's sort of gotten over the initial like, oh, taking another photo again type stage, and now it's just more quite fun thing that we can do together. It can result in some quite silly photos when he's directing, as he calls it. Yeah, but it's the great thing about taking loads of photos is that you only have to post one. You don't have to post any if you don't like any of them, but no one gets to see the silly ones, or unless you show them on a YouTube video. Yeah, so that can be quite fun if you can corral a friend or family member or partner into taking photos of you. Or alternatively, if you are not confident and comfortable in front of a camera, if someone else is taking the picture, you might want to experiment with taking photos of yourself. So investing in a tripod is quite helpful for that. So you can get them quite cheaply. I use for this now, I'm using quite a cheap like tripod that comes with a ring light already attached. So you can get those quite cheaply, but if you do want to use them outdoors, you probably want a more sturdy one, just so it doesn't blow over and smash your phone or camera. And obviously you'd also want to consider about the area in which you're taking photos. If you want to use a tripod in like an outdoor area, you wouldn't want to do it somewhere that's too busy in case you know, someone knocks it over, or it, you know, in a extreme bad situation tries to steal it, and then you have to chase them in your lovely fancy dress that you've just made. So yeah, it's just a case really of finding out what works for you. So, and also you can decide like what you want your grid to look like. Do you want to always take a photo in the same place, so you've got the consistency of background and then your outfit that you've made as the main focal point, or you can like mix it up with having different locations. So that's just a personal preference thing, or maybe even a necessity thing. If you decide I'm going to take the photos myself indoors and always do it in this one spot, then you don't have to keep trying to clear up an extra different space each time. For taking photos of yourself, I would recommend, at least when you start out, using the front facing camera, because then you can see yourself and you can see what you're doing, and you know that if, you know, you've got yourself into some awkward pose, you can see, and you also know that you're like actually in the frame as well. So speaking of awkward poses, let's just chat about posing. So I always see reels on Instagram about how to pose for photos, and I think they are quite a popular type of reel that everyone wants to watch. And I think with the creators like feel like they need to keep making these videos, so then the poses can end up getting more and more wild. And you know, and it's always like make a triangle with your, or with all of your limbs, and you know, you can do whatever you want in your photos, but I think you look better when you feel comfortable. So if you're focusing all your energy into contorting your body into some wild pose that you're like, no one's ever going to have thought of this pose before, then you might just, you know, detract attention away from what you've made as well. And isn't that the point of sharing things on Instagram, things that you've made from a sewist point of view anyway? So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about posing. And you know, if you're a person who's like, oh, well, I don't want to take a photo because I wouldn't know how to stand or anything, like it doesn't matter too much. You know, you're not taking a photo of yourself per se, it's more about what you've made. So some of the poses that I like to do, like pretty basic sort of things, like one hand on the hip and then one hand by my side, I quite like, because the hand on the hip is quite a natural sort of feeling thing to do anyway, but it means you've got something to do with your hands and you're not just sort of standing there a bit awkwardly. Another thing that I like to do if I feel like it's getting a bit intense with me staring into the camera and like cheesing it all the time, is to like extend a limb and then like just sort of look in that direction, because I find if I just look in that direction, it's like I just look a bit crazy, like I'm staring at something somewhere else. So that's it's kind of hard to demonstrate, but I'll put in some pictures. So that's something that I like to do, and also just like keep moving and just either whoever's taking the picture, get them to keep clicking, or if you've got a clicker. So I've got like this sort of a clicker that I've just bought it on Amazon. It's really, really cheap. So you can use a clicker if you're taking photos of yourself as well. So you can just keep clicking loads of photos in all the different poses, and then just see what works and bin off all the ones that are blurry or you're doing a weird face in. So yeah, also just like see how you feel in the moment. Like if you make something and you really love it and you're feeling a bit silly about it, just like really get into it. Like when I made my Leo dungarees, I felt like really childish the first time I wore them out. I was feeling like they're like the comfiest things I've like ever made and worn, to the extent where I was like, I don't think this should be allowed like out of the house. It seems like not allowed to be this comfy, if that makes sense. Like it was like secret pajamas, I suppose, is what I mean by that. But yeah, so then I was, you know, swinging in a tree and all sorts. So yeah, just have fun with it and see how you go, and then you might end up with some really nice pictures. And then in terms of like framing, you can always crop the picture afterwards as well. So if your spouse or friend or whatever is like, oh well, I'm not very artistic, I don't think I can do this, you know, if you're, you know, not fully in the center, you can always just crop it. Like you know, that's my preference. I like to be in the middle of my picture, so I'll just crop my pictures afterwards if I'm not looking big and in the middle enough. But it, you know, you can also play with like the rule of thirds in photos. I think even on phone cameras, it's divided into a grid of like 3x3. So then you can have like, you know, something different happening in 2/3 of it. And just to sort of, I think that the thirds thing is just something that, I don't know, artists have figured out draws the eye in the best way or something like that. I haven't looked into it at all, but that's something that people who know what they're talking about tend to say. So then also, as well as taking pictures of yourself in clothes, you know, you might not have finished your make yet, or you might want to post about your plans, or you might just not really feel up for taking a photo that day. So you could get into taking flat lays or detail shots of bits that you've sewn, or like, you know, if you've done a really lovely piece of hand sewing, or if your buttons match perfectly well or something like that, then you can work on some flat lays. So that's basically just where you lay everything down on like a table or a surface. So I do my flat lays just on this. So this is like a chest of drawers where I store some of my clothes, but it's got an almost white surface. So if I need a white background, I just use this. And this is like a not particularly used surface in my house, so it's not like I have to, I don't know, chuck a load of other stuff out the way. And then you can just lay out your things that you want to take a picture of, and you can experiment with like laying them out. So just by use of different like angles, you can make something that's quite static, like a small piece of fabric with a label on, for example. So there's a photo that I took of my Stitch Witch label on my Leo dungarees. I feel like I'm chatting loads about Leos now. So I took that photo, but I made it so that the photo was like, the dungarees were like diagonally across the photo, and then the golden bits are actually like this sort of golden edge that we've got on these fancy dinner plates that we have. But the way that it's cropped, you wouldn't know that. So I'm just telling you all my secrets here. And then also, like with flat lays, even though they're flat, you can still create a sense of movement by, you know, placing things in a sort of dynamic way. So I did one with like buttons that looks like the buttons are sort of, I don't know, snaking along. So you can play with that and like different levels of things. So yeah, it's just a case of, you know, seeing what you've got. And you can also like add extra things in. So, you know, you can add in some extra pins, or you know, put your tape measure on the side or something, just to give it a little extra dimension. So in terms of equipment for taking photos, you really don't need a lot. Like, you know, if you are able to get someone else to take photos of you, then you probably don't need any equipment at all, because basically, you know, I'm not going to recommend any cameras or anything, because I just use my phone or my husband's phone for everything. Like I'm using my phone to record this, use my husband's phone generally because he's the one taking the pictures, for everything on my Instagram feed. So yeah, I don't think you need to invest significantly into equipment for taking photos of your makes. I mean, pretty much all phones have decent cameras, and now they've got like quite a decent front-facing camera as well. So like I said before, you can see yourself, and then it's a bit like, you know, you can be your own hype man by like watching yourself back. So yeah, that's, you know, you can buy a great camera if you like, but most phones are fine. And also, you know, I think phones have had decent cameras for like quite a few years now, so you don't even need like the latest phone to, you know, have a phone that's good enough to take photos. I mentioned before that lighting is important, so it probably depends on your model of phone, but some probably will take much better pictures in like nice light, and then they get a bit grainier in sort of low light settings. So yeah, my tip for that is to do it outside, but you know, that might not be an option for you. So you can buy a ring light, which just sort of disperses a ring of light, obviously. So you can get those quite cheaply. I'll put in a link below to the one that I bought on Amazon if I can find it. It won't be an affiliate link or anything, but it's just if you're interested in buying something similar. But there are loads out there that you can get. So I prefer to use a ring light than like just the normal lights in my house, because I've got like you know, those spotlights in the ceiling, so I've got several points of light, you know, within one room, so then that can it casts like multiple different shadows from all angles, so that's not ideal. So yeah, you can first check if you've got somewhere like nice with natural light that you can take photos. So like standing somewhere that's like directly opposite a window will be quite nice, or you can try buying like a ring light, and then that would also hold your camera as well if you're taking photos by yourself. And then as I mentioned before, you can get a clicker. So these are super cheap on Instagram, and then on Amazon, and then you can just pair it with your phone via Bluetooth, and then you just press the button and it will start recording or start taking a photo. So one of my tips for that is to still use a timer. If you don't want your clicker in the photos, you can have like a 3-second timer, and then you can just chuck your clicker just out of the shot and then do your pose, and then click another one. So then you don't have to keep walking back up and take another one. But yeah, it's just a case of having fun with it and enjoying yourself, really. And then after taking the photos, you can edit them. So I tend to edit like most of my photos using this app called Snapseed, just on my phone. So for each photo, I just tend to just slightly increase the brightness, contrast, highlights, and saturation, just because I really like everything to be like bright and bold. But you can figure out what your style is, like the same as with sewing and what you wear. You might have your own style for how you like your photos to look. So I probably, for a lot of them, go a bit too far by oversaturating them, but that's just how I like it, and I want my Instagram grid to look nice and bright and colourful. So yeah, just play around with that. There are apps that you can have like a preset, like a filter basically, but I find the presets on Snapseed are quite strong, and then they look a bit much. But also, you know, even just like playing around with the Instagram filters, if you click on the filter, you can then like reduce the amount that the filter is by. So often, like just by reducing it down to like 50%, it looks less like it's got a filter on, if that makes sense. Like it just looks like, oh, that's a nice bright photo, not like, oh my, like, why is their skin turned blue? Yeah, so I think that's everything. I feel like I've gone a bit fast today, just chatting loads of stuff. But yeah, let me know what you think about any of that advice, how you like to take your photos. Is it something that you're interested in, or you're like, no, I'm all about the sewing, I'll just snap a quick mirror selfie and post it and then carry on. But yeah, whatever works for you is great, but this is just me rambling on about what I do basically. So hopefully this has been helpful, or at least interesting to somebody. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Speaking of the comments, I'm thinking of doing a video that's like a Q&A video, or a ask me anything but not rude things video. So if you've got anything that you want to ask me, like it doesn't have to be about sewing, but yeah, just anything that you would like me to chat about basically in an upcoming video, just type like Q&A and then your question, just so that I know to put it in the video and not just answer it in the comments. But yeah, if there's anything you want to ask and me to, you know, about this video, just put that in there as well, and I'll try and get back to you. That would be great if you've got any questions for my Q&A video. And then, yeah, hopefully you can get to know me a bit better. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you around. Bye!